Professor Kerbal is back. Okay, so I know I promised a different video next, but this video is inspired by Scott Manley's Eve or Bust. There you can see I had a shot inside the crew cab there. It's actually facing down, so he's seeing the ground go away from him. Pretty cool angle, I thought. Anyways, this mission, like I said, is inspired by Scott Manley's Eve or Bust. I wanted to make a really big, ridiculous vehicle like his ship, and since I don't use mods, I can't do a cool thing like him with a blimp submarine. Instead, I'm just going to do I'm going to call it a space lab. And what it's going to do is it's going to actually replace my mobile home on the moon. That's where Jebediah is actually. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to go give Jebediah a new, more advanced home to live in, because the mobile home that he's currently in on the moon, him and I think Bill or Bob, probably Bob, are living in is very old, very outdated. Kerbal technology has improved a lot since then. Their mobile home is actually using spaceplane wheels, landing gear as wheels, because that vehicle was designed before rover wheels were in the game. So, and it survived all the updates. So now I'm going to go drop this massive mobile lab down on the planet and give Bill and Bob a new place to live. It's an awesome, it uses a 6-wheel design. It has 2 of the big wheels and 4 of the new wheels, the new black wheels. It's very all-terrain. It's got lots of little gizmos and stuff on it. It's a very fun designed vehicle. Basically the best I could do without mods. Like I said, it was inspired by, this is really hard to land. Okay, so I couldn't actually get the engines lined up with the center of mass. There was no real way to attach engines to this thing and fuel in a way that would allow it to land and not be interfered with by the engines. So I came up with this design where I have the engines, and then I have you can see I have the 2 side-mounted engines, one on the back to kind of move the center of thrust over the center of mass. Now this didn't work perfectly, but that combined with the torque of the advanced SAS allowed me to land it. This was a super difficult landing though. If you can tell, I'm going incredibly slow, really high up. I baby this landing because this ship is one of the hardest ships I've ever had to fly. But I did it because I just wanted to build something big and ridiculous. Like I said, I saw that Eve or Bust thing and I was like, wow, that looks like fun. I want something that does all kinds of cool stuff too. So I designed this ship, and instead of telling you and spoiling all the stuff it does, I'm just going to let the video demonstrate what it can do as we get to it. But yeah, I'm just trying to land this big, massive mobile lab. It's not easy. I work really slowly, and it wants to tip, let me think. The center of mass was behind the engines, so it wants to tip backwards, so I'm always having to like push it forwards. So anytime, you can tell anytime I don't push it forwards, it like rolls back really hard. That's when I let go of the forward push. This landing, and this was my first attempt actually. I think just because the moon's gravity is so weak, I was able to pull this off, but I'm also getting better at landing, I have to think. That, and there's so many landing gear on this thing that it's not really an issue. As long as I'm going slow enough, it lands fine. So I'm pretty happy I landed my mobile lab with all kinds of gizmos and stuff. And I just need to drop these stupid engines because I don't want them. They have no fuel in them. As you can see, I used pretty much all of my fuel for the landing. I have like 5 liters left, which is fine. That means I designed the ship perfectly. So I'm gonna decouple and kind of gently wiggle the mobile lab away from the engines just because I don't want anything to break. And the one engine gets kind of caught there for a second, so it annoys me. Alright, so here's my mobile lab. You can see it's piloted by a one-man lander cam. It's got a shitload of lights. It's really good. I left this in to show how good at all-terrain it is. It goes over this huge mountain and drives just fine. I get up to the top where the level ground is. Actually, that was me coming out of the crater I landed in. I got 2 hitchhiker containers for living contorters. So we're gonna get a Kerbal out here now, and oh, you missed it there in the landing. There were some puffs of smoke. The landing gear on that pod in the front came off. That pod on the front was designed to be my transport on the moon, so I'm going to plan B. I'm busting out the rover. Alright, so this is a 4-manned rover with RCS so it can self-right. It's a pretty cool little rover. I wanted to use that pod, but the pod, the ship on the thing doesn't. Okay, so the rover's off-road is pretty decent too. The biggest problem with the rover is it's not very heavy, so in the light gravity it tends to bounce a little bit. Like here you can see I jiggle around a bit, and then I actually can't even right now because I'm pushing down so little on the ground that I don't even have any torque to steer. And I finally get some traction and I stop and I start driving normal. But yeah, that pod on the top of the ship, the landing gear, I used the really lightweight landing gear, the ones for probes, thinking I would be a really good... Okay, so this is the old mobile home. Pretty archaic. I don't even like it. It tips over easily, so we're going to leave a flag here, because we're going to leave the mobile home here as like a monument to my early space exploration. Jebediah and Bill, we're going to get on the rover here. We're going to take them back to the Moblie Lab. But yeah, that was back to what I was saying though. That lander can was supposed to be my transporter on the moon. It was supposed to be like a little rocket that could land places. And I just thought, oh, I'll use the really lightweight landing gear, and I'll just be a really good pilot and land really slowly. Oh, here I flipped the rover. I didn't record that bit, but you can see, I think that's Jebediah. His head's all like smashed down, and the front left side, the solar panel came off. So I'm rushing back to base now because change of plans. Now Jebediah is hurt, so we need to get him back to some medical attention ASAP. So what I'm going to do here is get this rover back in the garage real fast. Even though it's a little damaged, it's still fine. 3 solar panels is enough. The batteries on it are fine. It can get you anywhere, because once it docks back up, they can recharge on the lab. I was parking them in the garage here, and I forgot to lower the landing gear, so fix it real fast here. Switch to the other ship and lower it down, and then real quickly here, I'll just park it in the garage. It takes like half a second, and I'm docked. Alright, so the rover's back parked under the Moblie Lab. We're going to get everybody indoors, and then we're going to move the lab into a good position, because we're going to, since the lunar shuttle there, the landing gear broke and it's not going to be able to make landings, what we're going to do is we're going to improvise, and we're going to use that shuttle to get injured Jeb here back to Kerbin ASAP, because Jebediah is a legend, and we cannot possibly let him die. So we need to get him into that, we're going to put, this is Jebediah, we're going to put him, see he's kind of injured, so I'm having a hard time getting him in. We're going to put him in the capsule, and then we're going to have Bob. Since Bob's been on the moon the longest, we're going to have Bob fly him home on the outside here. And yeah, this ship was intended to move around on the moon, so those seats on the outside are safe for that. But since this is going to go all the way back to Kerbin now, Bob may die saving Jebediah, but at this point, we have to risk Bob's life because Jebediah is just too important. So... And this ship was designed to move around the moon all over the place, so it's definitely got enough fuel to get back to Kerbin. Like, that's not even a question. I even have parachutes on there just for this very rare instance that I would want to use it as a return shuttle. Alright, Bob, here's the question. Will you survive re-entry riding the outside of the rocket? What I've found in the past is those little chairs tend to rip off pretty easily. But he seems to be doing well. I'm steering good into the wind, trying to give it its best chance at survival. I'm going to use the last bit of my fuel to slow down, and then let the parachutes do the rest. So what was supposed to be a mission to give these two a new home turned into a rescue mission. And yeah, the Moblie Lab lost its lunar shuttle here with this little rocket, but it was broken anyways, so at least we got some use out of it. And it still has its rover, and it can move around and charge, and has lots of fuel, and I can always bring up a new one of these. Here at the end, I'm going to show some other bits of functionality that the lab has. I thought I'd include this bit of them landing safely, and I wanted to show how Bill and Bob are alive. Or not Bill and Bob, Jebediah. Fucking Jebediah. It's very important that I demonstrate Jebediah is still alive, because we cannot ever have Jebediah die. That's unacceptable. And he's been on the moon for a long time, so it's good that he's home. Alright, so here's some of the other things the Moblie Lab has. It's drones. I put these drones on top of the lander cans, but I'm not very good at flying them, and I also realized that those ion engines on the back weren't powerful enough because 2 generators didn't give it enough thrust to actually make that fly. So it was a bad design anyway, so here's just some arbitrary explosions then to finish off the video, because it's always nice to end on some explosions. Goodbye, drone. We were supposed to be a scout drone, and this one I tried to land it, and then I tried to take it back off.